Welcome back to The Fast Track, the podcast that gets Kiwis into their first homes faster, brought to you by Aera. I'm super excited today. We've got one of our original Aera members who just moved into their first home, Briar.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
Are you excited to be in your home?
I am excited, slightly overwhelmed, admittedly, but the excited is mostly weighing out the everything else as well.
How long's it been?
So I settled on the 21st of November and most of the moving that weekend. So
A week and a half ago.
Yeah, a week and a
Whoa,
half.
super fresh.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I thought I was going to have to leave Auckland, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
So you thought it was basically impossible in Auckland for you?
Pretty much. And admittedly, I guess because I was kind of checked out of the Auckland possibility, I probably hadn't seen that there was a bit of stuff about the market softening. If I'd seen that, maybe I wouldn't have been quite so set on alternatives. Like I was genuinely looking at Christchurch or Dunedin or something
Right.
like that in terms of something that felt feasible, especially doing the buy-in myself, solo. So it was kind of, in the back of my head that if I was going to do the big buy, it was going to probably
Somewhere
be
else.
a big life change, yeah.
And how are you going about it before you found Aera? Like, what was that journey like for you?
Every now and then, I guess, I would just kind of pop on some of the real estate websites and look at things and think, oh, that looks cute, or that definitely looks like it's got some mold somewhere, or just kind of, trying to be relatively informed in terms of what possibilities I had in terms of first home loans and things like that. But I think, with time, it's been a case of reaffirming the research that I'd done and having that extra bit of expertise on top to be like, yes, you're not losing your mind. That is what that means, kind of thing.
And what changed when you joined Aera and you found it and you dove in the app and you smashed through all the learning blocks? Like, what happened?
I literally saw an ad on TikTok, which when I tell people, I'm kind of like, but hear me out, okay? I did my research beyond that too. It was probably the first phone call that I had with Matt when I was like, here's what I'm dealing with. I have no idea if this is at all feasible, but you tell me, you're the expert. And sort of, he went back and he was like, no, we can probably, work with that. There's things that we could be looking at. The learning blocks and stuff were really helpful, I think, especially for some of that nitty-gritty tail end stuff, but especially coming to all of those things around things like settlement and reports and all that sort of thing. I was like, okay, actually, this is quite good to have all of this info to hand to know exactly how all of that breaks down.
What was the one thing that was the most helpful, do you think, in the the digital experience for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I really think probably those last few learning blocks in terms of the digital options were the most useful. And look, the games were fun sometimes as too after doing a few too many of them. Being like, okay, I can only do multiple choice so many more times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really think that probably was the most useful of the bits to hand there. And knowing that it was always there, I got sort of in a habit, I think, of I say habit. I mean, it occurred a few different times where I'd get to my car and I'd see that I had a message from one of the guys, whether it was Matt or Vedant or Michael, and I was like, okay, oh yeah, I should do some more of those things. So I'd sit in my car at the end of the day at work and be like,
that's a good habit to get into. I think you've completed almost every one of them.
I think so. I mean, I feel like a few more pop up every now and then. I'm like, I'm going to get you. But yeah, it was good to have that kind of to hand. And it's sort of, I guess, even just having the app there with those things felt like a sort of a visible reminder, I suppose, if nothing else. Like, I think even if you kind of were going into it maybe with a bit more knowledge of that, like I say, sort of pointy end stuff, I think even just having it sort of knowing that you go through them, that will have a payoff if you go through them literally, and also just having that app there to be like, oh yeah, I should check in on where that's at.
Right.
Or, oh dear, I do owe some paperwork to that person. So I think literally that visibility on the phone
that's
is
exciting because the idea of it is meant to be that it's like a coach and it's kind of always in your corner and it's nudging you, and it's got a long way to go. But and you're describing it in that way, like it's a conscience.
Yeah, and it's sort of there. Sometimes it's there like. And sometimes it's there like, I'm watching you, like you got stuff to do, buddy. So I think that it's definitely got the
That's very cool to hear. What do you think's the biggest mindset shift that happened during the process where you kind of switched from it could be someday to like, oh, it's going to be like now?
I think just having that kind of affirmation from somebody in the business that like, yeah, these numbers that you've got, the salary that you're on, etc., these are things that we can work with in this city.
Yeah.
For me as well, there was kind of that rush factor in terms of being 35. So, kind of one of those sweet spot numbers with the whole 30-year mortgages, and also being at the point where I knew, because teachers have very dependable salary, steps going up, that sort of by July next year, I'd be above the Kāinga Ora first home loan cap.
Right.
So it kind of did make me think, okay, things are going to get a lot harder if I leave it in terms of the options that I have. So maybe I do need to kind of really jump in head first.
That's clever. What surprised you the most about the whole thing? The whole experience, or anything that you'd had experience with Aera, or the process itself?
I think that it did feel more streamlined than I thought it would be, in terms of having obviously guidance towards, obviously off-site separate solicitors and things like that, and the guidance towards different people to be, this person will go do this thing and yada, yada, yada. So having that, like you say, kind of the coach and gang in the corner to be like pointing me in the right direction was really helpful, because I have to say, especially going through these things solo, and, I've got parents who've bought houses and things, obviously, but it's different when it's your first time doing it, and there are obviously things that you have to do yourself that you can't have, mum and dad holding your hand. So I think it all felt big and, scary in good ways, but it wasn't so much of the administrative nightmare that I feel like I sometimes hear from people about the house buying process.
I mean, that's part of the idea as well. It's trying to bring as much together as possible in one place, put as much digitally so that you can do it on your own, and then support you with, the team. So you finally got there. It happened. What did it feel like when you kind of like, okay, this is mine?
I was still at work on the day that I was settling, because honestly, I think even when things went unconditional, every time you sort of think, okay, this is happening.
Yeah.
But until I knew I literally had the keys, some part of me was like, it's going to fall through. Something's going to go wrong. You're going to be thousands of dollars out, whatever. And I was actually like in the car park of the tip shop in Henderson, because I was like, I need to go get some cool stuff for my new place that I'm definitely getting. And then I got the message coming through that I'd settled, and I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, had a little moment of...
You're by yourself?
Yeah.
Did you go and celebrate?
I called my mum first, and I was like, I think she was probably a bit confused by the fact that I was like, it happened. She was like, well, yeah, but went unconditional, right? But, when you're doing it the first time, now you're sort of, that little part of your brain's just like, until I have the keys, digital or not, it doesn't quite feel real.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think the rest of that day is kind of a little bit of a blur, because I wasn't moving until the next day, but I did then, head out to the place and just was like, this is my blank slate that's going to look so much cooler when there's stuff in here. But had this moment of like, all right, okay, wow. And I think it took sort of a little bit for it to all, feel fully realized, partly because, like I said, I'm a teacher. It's a very hectic time of year and life just going a million miles a minute. But I think, a few of those different steps along the way made it all sort of feel, until I was literally in there with all my stuff, like, the movers arriving and being like, they're taking it to my house, me, mine. And even and now I guess, while, my sort of bits and pieces, whether it's old stuff or new old stuff from the tip shop, it's like, it's now starting to feel a bit more like it is actually my place rather than just, one of a row, right? Yeah.
That's so exciting. If someone feels stuck or not sure or feels like buying is like miles away, what do you tell them, or what would you tell them now? I
mean, honestly, I would, first of all, it sounds really trite to be like, but like, I know exactly how you feel because I was there. And, point out the ways that I did have support through the process, through doing it through Aera. And I think that from what I know of the process, if I had started earlier, obviously there's a lot more of a slow build rather than rushing through things in your car, in the car park at work, in terms of the learning blocks and everything. But I think that it's kind of cool to be able to sort of reassure people that it's feasible. It's not, a pipe dream. It's not out of the question. It's all about sort of finding that balance in terms of, and I know this is one of the early things in terms of the house hunting stuff, the balancing act of what things are important to you for the first home, right, in terms of location and rooms and all that kind of thing. And yeah, is this going to be where I live for the rest of my life? Probably not. But for now, I have a beautiful, like, airy living space upstairs. I have a tiny little garden out the back. I have just everything is new and shiny and works, which is nice too with the whole,
And not
new
moldy.
build thing. So yeah, I think just trying to take a bit of that without ever trying to be lame or, I know what that's like, because it's like you have to find that space of, because I've been there and I know what it sounds like to have someone being like, I've been there, and you're being like, you don't understand my struggle kind of thing. But trying to sort of actually, level out of being like, look, there are ways that you can make this happen
Yeah.
at a pace that works for you. And if you're crazy like me, you might do it all very, very quickly. And
Well, it seems that way with Aera. It seems that people, they get in and they really trigger, like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to make this happen. And, the fastest we've done, how many days, guess?
Oh, I don't know.
11.
Oh my gosh, I was going to say 30, but I was like, that sounds too
11
short.
days.
Wow, okay.
From in the app to buying a home.
Wow.
And last month we had a couple that did it in 26 and
Wow.
29.
That is impressive.
So that's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Okay, last thing. What's one thing you wish, now that you've gone through the whole process and you've moved in and you've got all your stuff, what's one thing you wish every future first-home buyer knew?
That it's not as scary as it seems. That it can be smooth sailing if you have the right person to guide you along the way.
That's amazing. Well, thanks for coming today to share your story, and thanks for being part of Aera, and thanks for being part of our story,
Thank you.
and for trusting us. And congratulations, and I'm sure you'll have an amazing summer in your new home.
Yes, open.